Today, we will have a brief IT update and then have an update from the law department on some important litigation involving the city. So as many of you heard on Monday, we have restored 65% of the city's employees' emails, and we're hoping to be at 95% by the end of the week. We continue to work diligently on the recovery of data and application. Servers will be brought back online incrementally as they are secured and restored. I have Deputy Chief of Staff Cheryl Goldstein here to give us a status update on the recovery.
Good morning, everyone. So we are at about 70% now in terms of getting our users back on their computers and getting their email up and running. Over the course of the rest of the week, we're also going to be putting back online the shared servers that house people's documents and other working tools. So we're hopeful that by the end of the week that 95% of city employees will have access to their computers, their documents, and their emails. We're thrilled about that. While that is going on, as I've mentioned before, BCIT is continuing to work on the restoration and security and then bringing back online applications and programs. We have worked with them to prioritize the order of that. As you know, the water billing system, our online payment system, and our lien and recordation system are obviously significant priorities. They're big projects. They're continuing to work on them, and as those are restored, we'll let people know. In the meantime, there will be other applications and business practices that come online, and we will have a process for letting folks know about those things as they come online. As I mentioned, we had at the last press conference, we had a workaround for parking tickets. They are now, anybody who goes to the Abel Wallman building now, there is functionality in terms of looking up parking tickets that were parking, red light, and traffic speed camera, thank you, tickets that were issued before May 4th. Those are all accessible at the Abel Wallman building. And people at home, if they want to look them up, they're on Open Baltimore, so they can look them up there as well if they want to. And we're able to release flags from MVA. So that's really the update. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to.
When was the last time water bills were sent out?
I'd have to get you the exact date. They're sent out monthly, but I don't know what the date of issue was.
Is there a date in mind as to when the next billing will be sent out? Is there a target date?
I think we're still working on understanding exactly when the servers are going to come up. I do not believe that water bills will go out this month. We are encouraging people.
The June bill.
I do not expect June bills to go out. We are encouraging people, you can look at your old bill and pay the same amount from your old bill. It will be credited to your account. So if people want to keep paying a monthly amount, they can pay that, right? They can just keep paying a monthly amount based on their last bill. It'll be credited towards their account when the billing system comes back online. Some people are in, a program in which they, do sort of a monthly payment allotment plan, and people should continue to pay those monthly bills, even though they're not getting the bill, right? They can just keep doing that and have their account number, and they'll get credited for that. And, the mayor has said this a bunch of times, either do that or just keep putting money aside until the bill is issued.
They can pay online, or they have to come to Abel?
They'd have to come to Abel Wallman.
Mail it in.
You know what, I think they can mail it in, right? Yes, they can mail it in. You want to have your account number and the check. There's also a drop box at Abel Wallman. You don't have to stand in line. You can drop an envelope with your check, but you can mail it, or you can drop it, or you can bring it.
Is the city preparing with extra customer service personnel, et cetera, when these bills finally go out? Because as everybody knows, the billing system was already prone to question and concern and error.
Yes.
Has been for a while.
Right.
So when this first bill, whether it be the July bill that goes out or the August bill that goes out, we're anticipating that we're going to hear a lot of people saying, hey, so is the city kind of gearing up for that with public works personnel so that the customer service reps are greater in number?
There's going to be we're going to put together a whole plan before we send out the new bills, right? I think, one, we need to audit the bills before they go out and take a look at them. And second, we'll need to have, an adequate personnel in place in order to answer people's questions, to work with people on payment plans. I mean, I think there are going to be a number of issues that we're going to need to address, and we'll have a plan in place before we actually mail out the bills. I also, anybody who pays on a reoccurring basis while they're waiting for their bill, I encourage people to keep copies of their check or keep a receipt, or just, keep track of the payments that they've made so that they have that as a record for themselves.
Anything else, Michelle? Just quickly, is there any concern about the drop in home sales this previous month, in particular, potential impact on city finances as a result? So it reported an 18.5% drop in closed sales since the mail out.
I mean, obviously, we're hoping that the home sales pick up. As quickly as possible put a workaround in place so that we were able to transact home sales and purchases. People are taking advantage of that. The Title Association has been terrific about working with us. They've been a great partner, and we're hoping to see a pickup and an increase in that, throughout the course of the summer.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. As some of you might know, the city has had several court victories as of late, and we would like to highlight two of them today. First, the Maryland Court of Appeals, which is the state highest court, ruled a few weeks ago that the city's new zoning code, Transform Baltimore, could not be attacked in a trial court by any person just because they did not like it. And then last week, the Court of Special Appeals, the state's second highest court, ruled in the case of Floyd versus Baltimore City Council that the City Council acted within the requirement of the Open Meetings Act and its final approval of the ordinance. We expect these two cases will put an end to the constant attacks on the zoning ordinance by certain individuals. Also, the law department is now gearing up to enforce the termination of certain liquor licenses in residential areas that are no longer lawful under Transform Baltimore. That's huge for the city of Baltimore. In the second significant court development, federal judge Ellen Hollander rejected the fossil fuel industry's argument in our climate change lawsuit. The judge sent our case back to state court where we originally filed it and where it belongs. A jury of citizens of Baltimore should decide whether Exxon and British Petroleum and the rest of the oil companies will pay for the cost to the city of upgrading our infrastructure to withstand sea level rise and violent storms. And now we are a step closer to having the jury decide these important issues. Thank you to our partners in co-counsel in these suits. City Solicitor Andre Davis is here to explain these decisions in more detail and answer a few questions. Solicitor Davis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. On the first couple of cases mentioned by the mayor, who he quite accurately described the cases, some of you are aware that Transform Baltimore was finally adopted 2 years ago by the council. And there's been something of a cloud hanging over the zoning code since its adoption as a result of certain lawsuits that are brought by a small number of people challenging the code on any number of different bases. While we've always been confident that what the council did was appropriate, lawful, and fully supportable, we did go through litigation up to the highest court of Maryland. And as the mayor said, we now have two binding opinions from those highest courts settling once and for all the legality and the appropriateness of the zoning code. Each of the cases is called Floyd versus the mayor and city council, and we prevailed in each. And we are very pleased that this cloud that's been hanging over the zoning code as a result of this litigation can be removed. As the mayor mentioned, we are now in a phase where we're really going after the enforcement of that provision of Transform Baltimore, which sunset certain liquor licenses. The operators of those establishments are small business people. The city absolutely respects their desire and their intention and their ability to earn a living and run their businesses. But the problem of too many liquor licenses in too many residential areas in Baltimore City is one of long standing. And the council acted appropriately and legally in setting up a process by which for 2 years, these operators have been able to transfer their licenses, seek exemptions, make other plans for their businesses, such as selling more food. We need more food sold in Baltimore City, good, fresh food, and those are possibilities. So we will be litigating these issues appropriately in the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals and then in the courts. And we are hopeful that the court will see the wisdom of the council in bringing sounder residential zones in the city by eliminating the proliferation of these liquor establishments that contribute, frankly, to some of the difficulties that we see in the city. On the climate change suit, our partners are behind me. We've gotten lots of support from the planning department and the Office of Sustainability. Suzanne Sangri and Jane Lewis, two of my real important partners in the law department, the affirmative litigation group, have been marshaling with our co-counsel this climate change lawsuit. You'll remember that when we filed the lawsuit last year, it was the day after two such cases up in New York had been dismissed. And so we got a number of questions. Why are you filing this lawsuit when judges, federal judges up in New York have thrown out such lawsuits? And we said then that we're here in Maryland, we're dedicated to protecting Baltimore City and its residents. While we respect the judges up in New York, we want our judges here to take a fresh look at these legal issues. And the federal court here in Maryland has done exactly that. And in just a comprehensive, well-reasoned 46-page opinion issued this week, the federal court here in Maryland has said, no, the claims brought by Baltimore City against these fossil fuel companies, based on a number of theories, are all state law claims. And the state law claims are not preempted by federal law. And thus, the case belongs where we filed it, in state court. The case belongs before, we hope, Mr. Mayor, jurors chosen from Baltimore City who will make a decision whether the activities of these fossil fuel companies, going back many decades, and we allege fraud in the way that they hid the known effects of their business model over many years, has injured the city and its people. And so we will continue to seek compensation from these companies so that we get the financial support we need, Mr. Mayor, as a city to mitigate the deleterious effects on our environment, on the lives of our people, on the health of our people from the effects of the fossil fuel company. We have a long way to go, and I don't want to overstate what's happened. We have a long way to go before we get before a jury. There's likely to be an appeal. In fact, there's certain to be an appeal to the Fourth Circuit. And of course, we and our co-counsel will continue to pursue justice on behalf of Baltimore City and its people. So if there are any questions, it's a good news story for Baltimore City this spring. The law department's been very busy, and we don't win everything we try to do, but we go at it in good faith and try to do the best job we can on behalf of the mayor and city council of Baltimore. Mr. Mayor, thank you for giving us an opportunity to get the word out of what the city is doing for its people.
Any questions?
I would ask, what does the enforcement actions against the non-complying liquor stores look like right now?
Right now, it's still in an administrative process, and it's going to be a couple of months at least before we get to court, but that could change. And we are looking at all of our options, but basically we think we're going to have to go through the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals before we go to court, but there may be a way we can get to court earlier than that. But we're continuing to look at all of our options in terms of enforcement.
Are there code inspectors going out and finding them for, or do they have, the ones that have filed the zoning appeals have kind of a free reign to sell liquor right now?
There are no enforcement violations issued so far.
Why is it so important to do that in those neighborhoods, to go after those establishments?
Well, it's been known for really a long time. Baltimore has too many liquor outlets selling too much liquor to too many people at the wrong time of day under circumstances that affect the neighborhood, affect the health and lives of the people in those neighborhoods. And it's a historical accident, really. You know, I'm not going to offer a long lecture, but when prohibition ended, prohibition, I should say, ended back in the 30s, there was a compromise, and the liquor industry was given, control over the liquor industry was given to the states. And then the states, many of them, gave control over the retail liquor industry to the local jurisdictions. As you all know, sometimes you hear about a dry county in Alabama or Tennessee. There are counties in this country where you can't buy liquor. And yet here in Maryland, like on the Eastern Shore, I learned a few years ago, they have drive-up liquor stores, literally, like McDonald's. You can pull up to a window and buy hard liquor. And so the effect in Baltimore City has been this proliferation of liquor stores and liquor outlets and restaurants that call themselves taverns, which are supposed to sell a lot of food, but they're not selling a lot of food. They're selling a lot of liquor. And so what the council did over a long 4-year process in Transform Baltimore was the council, under the leadership of now Mayor Young, took a look at this circumstance in Baltimore City and decided we've got to do something about this. And one of the things the council decided to do was to identify those liquor outlets in residential neighborhoods that are out of place and that are only operating under what's called a conditional use. So they had to get permission in the first place, even to operate in these neighborhoods. And all the city has done is, okay, we're not giving you permission anymore. And so it's important that this law be enforced to the fullest extent permissible under the law. And we don't think there's a constitutional violation here at all.
While you're here, I wanted to ask you a question. You know, that the arrest of police officer Ethan Newberg brought to attention the large amounts of overtime of officers. You had long ago designated an audit of overtime as attorney-client work product. Given this latest revelation that has raised a lot of questions, and given the fact that Mayor Young says he's the most transparent mayor ever, would you consider releasing that now to the public, given the concern?
As we've said repeatedly, and I didn't respond to your email, yes, but I did get it. I did get it, Steve. We will release it as a part of the litigation. We're getting close. As you know, I know you're impatient. I accept that. But we are moving forward in the litigation, and that information in that audit will become public as a part of the litigation.
It will become public?
It will become public in the litigation, yes. Yes, nobody's interested in hiding it, but we need to use it strategically, as we must, of course, in the litigation. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Now, any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, now that you have ascended to this role, do you have a vision for how the city should deal with the squeegee kids and the panhandlers at the intersections? Do you think we need to do?
Well, we're looking at that now. Right now, it's illegal to impede traffic, and being in the direct line of traffic is illegal. And we're looking at how we're going to really enforce that. It needs to be enforced. It's illegal. Somebody can get hurt and injured, then who is at fault if someone with a car hits someone? Who's at fault? They in the middle of the street, and it's illegal, and we must address it.
Have you considered fining motorists, as some other cities have done, for giving the change?
No. As you heard from some of the motorists, y'all have written about it, they're afraid. They're even afraid to stop. And some folk have said they don't even want to ride through downtown anymore, you know? And I don't want to hear that. I want people to feel that Baltimore City is a welcoming city for tourists, for people who work here, people who live here should not be subject to bad behavior by anyone.
So is the plan to clear any corner that has squeegee kids on it? Just to be clear, what is the plan?
Well, we're working on that now, okay? The commissioner, our Office of Children, Family Success are going to work together to come up with a strategy that we're going to use. But I want to repeat, it's illegal to impede traffic in the streets of Baltimore, period.
Since Board of Estimates approved or awarded a company operation of the circulator today, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts or plans for how to make that more financially viable. I know it's struggled in the past and there's.
Well, there was a number of, options that we were looking at while I was on the council, because mainly it was to get tourists to different points of the city. Now it has become popular with the residents. And it's not all over the city, it's just in certain parts of the city. And we have to look at how we're going to continue to sustain it. And we're looking at that as well. So all I can say is we're looking at it.
Mr. Mayor, can you respond to your intentions to expand city recs?
Well, I've been a champion of recs and parks since I've been on this council. I fought every closure of rec centers. Was successful in keeping some open, some I was not. As you know, some of our rec centers were given to sororities and fraternities to run. And my plan is to beef up recs and parks, to find creative ways to find financial support for programs for our young people. Want to make sure that we engage in them in programs that they want to see, and it's my job to find the funding for it. So the expanded hours is something that used to happen when I was young. Our rec center was open every Saturday and stayed open until 9 o'clock at night. I don't know what the hours going. That used to happen when I was young. Our rec center was open every Saturday and stayed open until 9 o'clock at night. I don't know what the hour's going to be because I haven't sit down to talk with Director Moore about that. But this has been a priority of mine since I've been on the council. And it was a jointly agreed upon initiative to open our rec centers by the mayor, the council president, and the city council. It wasn't just one person's idea. We all care about our youth. If you go back to the Children's Youth Fund, I've been trying to do that for years. We finally got that done. So that's $13 million that's going into a fund for after-school programs and those kind of things that nonprofits can do their RFP and get some of that money. So my commitment to recs and parks and to youth in general, even our seniors, is unquestionable.
Mayor, the Children and Youth Fund is pushed back. There's $12 million available from the FY19 budget. It's actually a little more than that. It's pushed back. It's an application process, et cetera, due to the ransomware attack and some other things that have been going on that affect it. There's an audit going on, et cetera. How do you respond to that?
Well, the council had a bill. I'm not sure whether they passed it. It's the Thursday to continue the mechanism with having the associated charities to continue to disperse the money and look at the bid process that are RFP process that's coming in from the groups that look at the proposals. We don't want to be an impediment to these programs not getting the funding that they need to continue their programs. So after council does its due diligence, we expect that ABC will continue to do what they need to do to get the money out the door.
Anything else?
How is the financing of the Perkins Homes development going? Are you looking at perhaps doing a TIF?
Well, there hasn't been no request for a TIF as of yet. As you know, they're still working on the plan, working with community to find out exactly what it is the community want to see. As you know, Perkins is federal land, and they have to make sure that those young people and families that live in there are able to come back. So that's something that's being flushed out.
There was talk about a TIF for that project, but you said at the time in council you didn't have an appetite for it.
No, I didn't have an appetite as the way it was being presented. Now that it's going to be a school that's included in that TIF, and it's going to be money set aside for community, for training and those kind of things. I can consider that once the council do what it needs to do. It has to go through the council process. And it's Councilman Stokes' district, and he's very supportive of the TIF, and he know how I felt about the TIF, but things are coming in place now that I think is going to be favorable for me to support the TIF.
So is it going to be like 80 million? Or
No one have said what it is. There have been numbers floated around that I wasn't happy with, but I don't know what the final number is going to be, because I also said that the developers need to put skin in the game as well.
The TIF cannot include the school, am I correct?
No, the TIF is part of the school.
But the TIF has to have revenue,
It has to have revenue.
and the school doesn't produce property tax.
No, they don't, but the TIF is really for infrastructure, and the infrastructure would be building our school within that whole process. As you know, Ms. Miller, they are swapping the land that the school sits on. They're turning it down, so they have to replace that school. So I'm excited about that. And the school system is at the table, and the community is at the table along with the principal to talk about the design and what they want to see in that school. And I'm excited about that. I don't know what the TIF is going to, amount of the TIF is going to be, but I do know that the community is in support. They have engaged the community, and HABC already know that it's federal law that they have to replace those units with people who are living there, and I'm committed to that.
In regards to those rec
This is
centers.
the last
what do you
question,
expect that to
guys.
accomplish?
I can't hear. What'd you say?
In regards to opening up the rec centers, what do you hope that will accomplish?
I'm hoping that it would accomplish getting young people off the street and into some programs. I have met with some organizations that are interested in helping our rec centers. And from me talking to some of the young people, they want to see like music studios where they can do their karaoke. If they want to be producers, they can do that. If they want to play instruments, they can do that. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at, trying to get support for. I know we can't put it in all our rec centers, but we're going to try to put them in as many as we can. So I have some commitments. People make commitments and then they don't follow through. Perfect example was Sandtown Winchester. We had all the national news media to hear, all the organizations talking about what they was going to do to uplift that community, and nothing has happened. So commitments are just commitments, but I'm going to try to follow up on those commitments. Thank you.
Thank you.